Hi friends, how are you? I hope people are doing well. I think this is my first voice interaction with you people, and let's start the video. And meanwhile, you people will find yourself in the deepest part of this electrical world. So, first, as per the definition, what is insulator? We can define it. Insulator is a substance which registers the flow of electric current. That means whichever the substance doesn't allow the flow of current or flow of heat from one body to another body, that is known as insulator. We can have examples like rubber, porcelain, glass. Now, as you can see, the types of insulators are pin insulators, solid post insulators, suspension insulators, hollow insulators, long rod single piece porcelain insulators. So as we go far in this video, we will understand each by each. Now, what is an electric insulator? As per the definition, we can see on the board, that is, an electrical insulator is a material whose internal electric charges do not flow freely and therefore make it nearly impossible to conduct an electric current under the influence of an electric field. This contrasts with each other materials, semiconductors and conductors, which conduct electric current more easily. The property that distinguishes an insulator is its resistivity. Insulators have higher resistivity than semiconductors or conductors. Now coming to the explanation, we can say, how does a body charges? Either by giving an electron or by accepting an electron, a body is positively or negatively charged. So we can say that insulator is such a material which doesn't allow the electron to flow from each body to another body. Why? Because here the electrons and protons are so merged with each other that doesn't allow any of their particle to move from one body to another body. Whereas in conductors or semiconductors, the scenario is different. They allow the free electrons to flow from one body to another body, which causes the positively or negatively ions from one sided, and they make the body charged. So now guys, we are talking about the properties of insulators. So the first property is mechanically strong. It should be mechanically strong. It shouldn't have any doctrine nature, so that it can justify its property. Then high insulation resistance. Obviously it should have high insulation resistance, otherwise insulators won't be able to do the insulation. Free from internal impurities. It should be free from internal impurities, otherwise it may act as a conductor or a semiconductor, which may be the cause of failure of this property. It should have high dielectric strength, which is ultimately the insulation resistance. High relative permittivity, it should be. Then non-porous. Non-porous is something which doesn't allow the corrosion to affect the insulation property. Should not get affected with changes in temperature. Definitely, if it will be flexible with the changes of temperature, then its property will be getting changed with the season change. Like in winter season it will be different, and in rain season it will be different, and so on. Now coming types of insulator, basically in electrical field, the insulators are three types, that is pin type insulators, suspension type insulators and tension insulators. So these are the basic types. So many more types are also available, but according to these types only other types are evaluated. Now what is pin insulators? Pin type insulators are used for the transmission of lower voltage. Lower voltages are 230 volt, 440 volt, etc. A single pin type insulator is used to transmit voltages up to 11 kV and higher voltages require 2, 3 or 4 piece pins insulators. They are not economically feasible for 33 kV and higher transmission lines. Pin type insulators are secured with steel or lead bolts on two transmission poles. These are typically used for straight running transmission lines. So for 11 kV, one type of pin insulator is used, and for more than 11 kV, two, and further it is 3 and 4. These pin insulators are not economically feasible for 33 kV and higher transmission lines, so it is not suitable to use pin insulators for more than 33 kV. The pin insulators are connected to the tower or pole with a lead or bolt, and they are suitable for straight transmission lines or straight transmission poles. They are not suitable for angle or bended transmission lines. Now coming to suspension type insulator, these are basically two types. One is cemented cap type and the second one is Hewlett or interlinking type. In case of failure of any of the units, the replacement work done on that unit and entire string need not to be replaced. Just add additional units to the string if the line voltage is required to be increased at some later stage. So 33 kV or more than 33 kV lines are using suspension type insulators where the pin insulators are not suitable to use. So the advantages of using suspension type insulator is the without changing that entire string, we can replacement the suspension type insulators in a line. Now tension type insulators used for handling the mechanical stresses at angle positions of the line, that is for corner or sharp curve end of the lines, intermediate anchor towers, long river crossings, low tension or LT line shackle insulators are used. For high tension or HT line, assembly of the suspension insulators is used as strain insulators but are the arranged on a horizontal plane. On extra long spans, river crossings or two or more string of strain insulators are used in parallel. Tension type insulators are used basically for corner or sharp curve or dead end of the line or intermediate of the anchor towers. For river crossings or railway crossings also we are using tension type insulators. So for LT line, the tension type insulators are used and they are called shackle insulators. And for HT line, we are using assembly of suspension insulators as a tension insulator, that is called strain insulators. Now type of insulator tests, there are three types, that is flashover test, performance test and routine test. So flashover tests are divided into three types, that is dry flashover test, wet flashover test and impulse flashover test. So in case of dry flashover test, the voltage is applied between the electrodes of the insulators and is gradually increased over the specified limit. Insulator must sustain the minimum voltage for 1 minute. So after applying the voltage in between the electrodes of insulator, it should sustain the minimum voltage for what the insulator was designed. So after that the dry flashover test will be over. So in case of wet flashover test, similarly to dry test but in addition to the applied voltage, the water is sprayed over the surface at an angle of 45 degree. Raining condition, which will be insulator must sustain the minimum voltage for 30 seconds under the wet condition. So the wet flashover test is similar to the dry flashover test. The addition one is here the insulator will be in raining condition, that at an angle of 45 degree 45 degree the waters are sprinkled on the insulators and it should sustain that voltage what was applied to it up to 30 seconds. Now, in case of impulse frequency flashover test, a generator develops a very high voltage at a frequency of several hundred kilohertz. This voltage is applied to the insulator and spark over voltage is noted. So, in case of impulse frequency flashover test, a voltage is applied at the frequency of several kilohertz, and the flashover of the insulator or spark over voltage is noted over there, so that we can know that at what voltage or at the extreme condition of voltage should be what for the flashover of the insulator. So one formula is there for impulse ratio, that is for impulse ratio is equal to impulse spark minus over voltage divided by spark minus over voltage power frequency, that is up to 50 hertz. Now coming to performance test, we can have three categories, that is one is puncture voltage test, mechanical strength test, and the last one is porosity test. So now what is puncture test? Insulator is suspended in insulating oil and applied voltage is increased gradually until puncture occurs. The voltage at which puncture starts is called puncture voltage, and it is 30% greater than dry flashover voltage. So, first the insulator will be suspended into insulating oil, and the voltage will be applied gradually, which is 30% greater than the voltage what was applied in dry flashover voltage, and at which the puncture of insulator is occur, at which voltage we have to note it down, so that we can know the puncture voltage of that particular insulator. Now mechanical strength test. So determine mechanical strength of pin type insulator. Insulator is mounted on a steel pin and 250% of working load is applied for 1 minute. So here we are testing the mechanical strength of that particular pin insulator, like how it will be working in a transmission tower or working pole. So 250% of working load will be applied to that particular steel pin which was mounted to the insulator for 1 minute, and after that the insulator mechanical strength will be determined. So what is porosity test? Here insulator sample is taken and broken into pieces and immersed in a 1% alcohol under pressure of 150 kg per centimeter square. After 1 hour, the pieces are removed and are observed for the penetration of the dye. This gives the degree of porosity indication. So here the sample of insulator material will be taken and will be powdered, and under the pressure of 150 kg per centimeter square in 1% alcohol it was immersed, and after dyeing that we can have the porosity from the dye material of that particular insulator. So what are the routine tests of insulator? One is high voltage test, second one is proof load test, and the third one is corrosion test. So in case of high voltage test, insulator are inverted and are placed in water up to the neck. The spindle hole is also filled with water and a high voltage is applied for 5 minutes. After the test, the insulator should remain undamaged. So for high voltage test, we have to check whether the sustainability of that particular insulator can be observed or not in case of its immersion in water completely for 5 minutes. So proof load test, all types of testing insulators are assembled and tensile load of 20% in excess of working load is applied for 1 minute. After the test, the insulator should remain undamaged. So here in case of proof load test, after gathering all the insulators, 120% of the working load will be applied to the insulators for 1 minute, and after that the insulator should be undamaged, otherwise it won't be suitable for the working condition. Now what is corrosion test? The insulator with its fitting is suspended in a copper sulfate CuSO4 solution at 15.2 degree for 1 minute. Then it is removed, wiped, cleaned and put it again in CuSO4 solution. This procedure is repeated 4 times, which results in 0 metal deposits over the insulator. So in case of corrosion test, the insulator with its fitting is immersed in the CuSO4 solution, that is copper sulfate, at 15.2 degree for 1 minute. And then again, after cleaning it completely, we have to put in CuSO4 solution. Then we have to repeat this procedure for 4 times, and after that we have to conclude that 0 metal deposits over the insulator, which will be the completion of corrosion test. So friends, with this we have to end this video, and for more updates and for more videos, like, subscribe and share my videos, and please do it. So take care, bye bye, and have a good day to all.